Hey guys, welcome to HipHughes History. We're so glad that you could make it to my classroom. In the next few minutes, what we're going to try and do for you guys is frame out the government shutdown that's occurring right now. Today's October 3rd, 2013. So AP Government, US History, Lifelong Learners, criteria on the Internet, all of it's good for you. So I usually start kind of this conversation first kind of explaining how a budget's supposed to be passed. And of course, we're not doing a 40-year lecture here, so in its most basic elements, it's framed out in the Constitution that the President proposes a budget, and that Congress then, through appropriation bills, there's 12 appropriation bills, funds the government. And of course, the House and the Senate usually have to agree by conference committee. They come together and hammer out details of a budget, and then eventually that budget needs to be signed. The calendar year runs from October 1st to September 30th, so usually at the end of September, forces are gathering to either pass a new budget or to do what's called a CR, a continuing resolution, or a stopgap measure, to make sure that if there's still negotiations going on, that the government stays open for business. So let me talk a little bit about the history of government shutdowns and really kind of the root cause of why they occur. They occur because there has to be a budget. The budget has to come out of Congress, and there's an actual law, 1870, called the Anti-Deficiency Act, that Congress passed to make sure that if there wasn't authorized funds, this goes to like Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution, then there can't be money spent. So therefore, the President, under executive authority, can't just kind of keep departments open by spending the money how they see fit. Congress has to authorize it. And certainly there is kind of mandatory funding schemes that are put in there. So when you have a government shutdown, it's not like the mail doesn't get delivered or we're not able to print checks for Social Security. So we'll call them partial government shutdowns. And there's been a lot of them. There's been, I think, 17 of them up to the current one. They occurred 4 or 5 times under Jimmy Carter, really dealing with abortion and Medicaid issues. And in many of those government partial shutdowns, they were all Democrats. There were Democrats in the executive, Jimmy Carter, and running the House and the Senate. Ronald Reagan had a number of government partial shutdowns, and I believe one full government shutdown for a few days, and that was really over deficit spending, and that was really over negotiating the actual budget to try to reduce spending, and Democrats not really willing to do that, so they had to negotiate, and part of that ended up with the government being shut down. It also happened under Bill Clinton 2 times, and again, this was under deficit spending umbrellas. So Newt Gingrich in 1994 and the contract with America and the Republican takeover are really taking a stand to try to force the president to negotiate and to cut the deficit, and Bill Clinton allowing the government to shut down to force the Republican hand, and they ended up eventually negotiating budgetary items and laws like the Welfare Reform Act. So the current one is a little bit different. The current one isn't over appropriation bills. Nobody is talking about a real budget. The government is so dysfunctional that all we're really trying to do at this point is keep the government open temporarily by passing what's called stopgap measures or continuing resolution CRs. And normally that's pretty kind of process oriented. That just kind of occurs as negotiations are going on in the back rooms. We keep the government open until we hammer out, those 12 appropriation bills. But what's occurred this time, and you can judge for yourself, its legitimacy and its effectiveness, is that the House Republicans, who control the House of Representatives, and there's a certain faction in the Republican Party called the Tea Party caucus, which are people that were elected on the idea that government's out of control and that big government is bad. Many Tea Party Republicans were elected on the back of Obamacare being passed, and their constituents in their districts are sending them to repeal Obamacare, to stop Obamacare. These are very, very deeply red districts. Some blame gerrymandering, that these districts were carved out by Republican governors, and there's really not a lot of diversity of voices in those districts, so the people that are representing those views are really hardcore. And they don't really have an incentive to compromise, because if they do compromise and they go back to their districts, which are really, really red and really, really anti-Obamacare, they could lose their job. They could face a primary. So what they did was when they sent the continuing resolution to the Senate, they attached some riders, some kind of like extra stuff in there that basically tried to delay the implementation of Obamacare. We're not going to get too specific about the mandate and about different ways of trying to defund it, but basically for the first time, I believe, in history, they are using a stopgap measure as a technique to kind of bargain to get what they want. And the Senate is having none of it. Harry Reid in the Senate controls the Democratic majority, and you only need 51 votes to do anything budgetary in the Senate. So they keep sending these CRs, continuing resolutions, back to the House, and they say, that dog's not going to hunt, Dr. Phil. We're not going to do that. We're not going to negotiate on Obamacare, which is a law that was passed and found constitutional. So therefore, up your nose with a rubber hose. And the House Republicans basically saying, well, if you're not going to negotiate with us, if you're not going to compromise, then I guess we're at a stalemate and we're not going to get a continuing resolution and the government's going to shut down, and bam! That's exactly what happened, and that's the situation that we're in right now. So we're basically at a stalemate. Are the Democrats going to cave, and are they willing to negotiate on a law that was already passed and is already being implemented? Or are they not? Are they basically going to wait out the Republicans and see if there's some type of massive, response from American people to the House Republicans that say, look, you have to give up on this Obamacare thing? Whatever side you're on, I want you to understand the very basic elements, and we will have to see what happens from here. But at the end of the day, that's where we are, guys. We're in a government shutdown, and remember, it's a partial government shutdown. So certainly most parts of the government are open. There's about 4 million government employees, including military. Of that, about 800,000 have been furloughed, have been sent home or not working and not making money. And Democrats would claim that that's going to have a very negative influence on our economy, because that's money that's not getting pumped back into the economy. And of course, Republicans would say this isn't the worst thing that could happen. This is a way of shrinking the size of government, and government represents tyranny. And if we need to starve the beast and make sure that people can see for themselves that government isn't going to necessarily has to be the crutch in life that you walk with, then maybe this is a good thing. But whatever side you're on, I still love you. So there you go, guys. Obamacare, government shutdown, House Republicans, Senate Democrats, chickens with their heads cut off. There you go, guys. We'll see you next time. Check the links below. I hope that you had fun doing the learning, because I had fun doing the teaching. Where attention goes, energy flows. Never forget that.